Hunter x Hunter's Succession War is starting to really ramp up, and with this increasing intensity, I find myself asking more and more often who on earth is actually going to win this thing. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I put together a ranking of each of the princes based on how likely I think they are to win the war, and honestly, based on the information we have right now, I think I kind of nailed it. I want to start with the princes that have the lowest chance of winning and then work our way up to the ones that I think have a pretty decent chance. Let's start with the obvious people. It won't be the ones that are already dead. So it won't be Momose, Sally Sally, or Kacho. I don't think I need to explicitly state why it won't be them, but in case I do, it's because they're dead. Sure, post-mortem Nen exists, but that only pertains to abilities. So I doubt any of these three will be coming back to life to take the crown. Another person who I think is pretty unlikely to win at this point is First Prince Benjamin, as it seems like he has been infected by TSK-17, which will kill him pretty quickly. While he does have a plan for succession if he dies, there's no guarantee it'll work, as Nasubi has to approve it for it to take place, and even then, the successor will be a baby who is not part of the current succession war. They have no Nen Beast to protect them, and they haven't been chosen to participate in the same way the other princes were, so them getting the crown might not even be allowed under the current rules. Even if it is, Benjamin's child probably is really young and likely won't have the same backing as the other princes, as I doubt Ben's guards will want to guard some kid, and it's not like the other queens will really care about him since he isn't their child. Probably. It would be kind of crazy if Ben's kid was with Oito or one of the other lower queens though. I guess there could still be a small chance that he survives the bioweapon since we don't know what his Nen Beast does, and I don't think Togashi would throw away the first prince's Nen Beast without showing its ability, but I still think his long-term survival is pretty unlikely due to how hyped up this bioweapon has been. Another one whose situation makes me think they won't make it far is 7th Prince Luzurus. This dude has a whole assassination plot trying to end him. That is not a good sign of long-term success in this war, especially considering how every other assassination plot has been executed successfully. No pun intended. Now, do I think every assassination plot will be successful in the succession war? No. Of course not, but this one has Melody, Kacho, and the Justice Department behind it, so I doubt that this attempt would be a complete failure. There's also Luzurus' nature as a person. Being more laid back and less into the war in the first place puts him at a bit of an inherent disadvantage, as he has less contingency plans than people like Wobble or Halkenberg. Not that I think either of them will win, but more on that later. I feel like Luzurus is one of those princes that is kind of acting as filler, similar to Mariam or Sally Sally. He just doesn't seem like a serious contender at this point, but I could be wrong. I mean, I used to think the same thing about Tyson too, but now I'm not too sure. Tyson is extremely hard for me to read. For a lot of the manga, I thought she was just some ditzy, erotica-loving, middle-aged lady who is kind of a filler prince in the same way that Sally Sally and Luzurus are. But the more I think about her, the more I'm unsure. Don't get me wrong, I don't think she'll win, but I also don't think she will bow out easily. Her Nen Beast works in a way that should give her a strong shield of protection to any potential threats, as it prevents betrayals and can even influence the will of hunters. Obviously, advanced Nen users like Izunavi are not affected by its manipulation, so I don't think someone like Raihan or Yusoshi would fall victim to it either. But at the same time, I kind of feel like her Nen Beast is holding her back. The main reason I don't think she is destined for the throne is specifically because of the nature of her Nen Beast, as I don't think someone with such a non-serious Nen Beast would be the one Togashi leaves on the throne in the end. It could undergo some transformation, as we know Nen Beasts can transform since we saw Mariam's dragon change after the death of Momose, but I have a hard time seeing anything affect Tyson in the way that the death of Momose affected Mariam. But unless Tyson's Nen Beast does change, I have a hard time seeing her be the one on the throne in the end. She's also one of the princes we know the least about, and this really only happens for two reasons. Either they're a minor prince of no importance like Sally Sally and Momose, or they're being saved to be an important prince later in the war like I believe Camilla is. I don't think the second place applies to Tyson, but I guess only time will tell. While not a prince, I also think it's worth mentioning that I don't think Nasubi is willing to win the war. I know it might be weird to include him in the first place, but there are some theories that this whole succession war is just a ploy by Nasubi to gain power and maintain his position at the top by sacrificing his children, as there are 14 caskets in that weird room we saw that one time. Plus, when we look at the traditions of Kaken that this man perpetuated, it becomes obvious there's some weird stuff going on in this nation, and it's obvious he's not a good person, so I wouldn't be surprised surprised if there was a more nefarious purpose behind this war from the king. There's also the question of what happens to him once the war is complete. Does he just die? If so, why didn't he wait longer to pull off the war? It's not like he seems that old. Regardless, I still think him winning would be kind of far-fetched. I feel like having a guy not involved in the war win the war would be kind of dumb from a plot perspective. And the way he talks and thinks about the war also kind of disproves that he's just thinking about taking it all for himself. He seems pretty content to let the war take its natural course. I also think it's pretty unlikely that Srydnik would win. This might come as a surprise to some, but hear me out. I think from a plot perspective, Srydnik winning is not likely. Now, I don't know how he will be defeated as he seems pretty unkillable at the moment and he's only getting stronger, but he has to be beaten by Kurapika in order for Kurapika to finish his recovery of the Scarlet Eyes. This doesn't necessarily mean death, but I feel like he still might die, especially since he's kind of related to the ongoing Mafia war due to his connection to the High Leaf crime family. He also already has forces working against him, with Theta trying to figure out his Nen ability and being the only person that knows how his Nen beast works. She could be the key to whether or not he wins the war. Surely nothing bad is gonna happen to her though. From a more meta perspective, I feel like Togashi wouldn't let someone this purely evil win. It would leave a giant loose end on the Succession War, creating the question of what horrible things will Srydnik do now that he's in charge. And this alone could potentially derail the entire plot away from the Dark Continent, which I don't think Togashi would do. So even though he seems like an unkillable force right now, I don't think he will be the ultimate winner of the war. Next, I want to talk a little bit about Camilla and why I think she actually has a pretty good shot at winning. But before we cover her, please consider subscribing. We are so close to 100,000 subscribers, and surprisingly, a lot of you aren't subbed. Over 80% of my viewers are not subscribed, and it would really mean a lot to me if we could change that. Even just a percentage point or two would be enough to push us over that 100k mark. Plus, you really have no reason not to, so you might as well. Anyway, it's a bit hard to say where Camilla will land. Aside from her big entrance, I feel like she's kind of taken a big seat in the Succession War for now. But she does have some great tools at her disposal in her arsenal, specifically her Nen ability, which grants her pseudo-immortality, and the Have-Nots, which could kill a number of princes under the right conditions. Currently, the main reason we don't know much about her is because she's in jail awaiting trial, so I think when Benjamin dies, the charges against her will be dropped and she will be freed, meaning she'll start playing a much larger role in the war once again. And what will that look like? Well, it's hard to say. I think the alliance between Kurapika, Zhang, and Tabepa will recognize her as a major threat due to her brazen attitude, and this could further be exacerbated if one of the Have-Nots attempts an attack. I also think being the new oldest prince after Ben will put a bit of a target on her back as well, but we'll have to wait and see for that one. Really, she's just a giant question mark at this point. So let's move on to another prince who I don't think has a great shot, but isn't completely out of the race yet. Halkenberg. Look, I want him to succeed, but I just don't know if it's likely. He's just in such a weird position right now. I'm sure he'll make it far, but the whole soul-swapping aspect will make it hard for him to function as a ruler, and I'm not sure Togashi would put someone with that kind of limitation in the seat at the end. Like, imagine how weird it would be for the arc to end if Balsamico is the one on the throne, with Halkenberg there only part-time. It just feels weird, and as far as we know, he has no way back into his original body, so I just don't know if there's much of a future for him. There's also just so much that has to go right for Halkenberg to win at this point, and while he is a genius, I don't think luck will always be on his side like it has been thus far. We also don't know what his current condition is or how him being in Balsamico's body is going to affect Benjamin's poisoning. Sure, he can escape Balsamico's body, but that doesn't mean he will 100%, and there's a chance that that could make things even weirder for him than they already are. He is another one like Camilla who just has so many question marks surrounding him, so it's a bit hard to say that I feel confident that he could win. One of the princes I am confident won't win though, unfortunately, is Fugetsu. It just feels like a lot of her cards have already been played, and even when she had a good amount of cards and a good amount of resources, she still wasn't really a front runner, as she felt aimless and too down on herself. While she's not in a terrible place, especially with the Justice Department, Kacho, and Melody behind her, I would still be surprised to see her win. She's cursed and low-key going insane too, so I feel like she's just kind of on her last leg. Plus, her Nen Beast is kind of weak compared to a lot of the other ones. Like, there are Nen Beasts capable of raising armies and distorting space, and hers is just a tunnel. I'd love to see her succeed, as I think she is an interesting character, I just don't think it's likely. In reality, I think she might actually be the next to die after Benjamin, and maybe Halkenberg depending on where he's at. If I had to make a prediction, I'd say that the way we learned that she dies is by Kacho disappearing mid-conversation with Melody or something like that, as Kacho's Nen Beast only works as long as Fugetsu is alive. From here on out though, it's only princes that I could see winning. Starting with Tebeppa. Tebeppa seems to be doing quite well for herself as of now. She has a strong alliance with Kurapika, which is a good sign that she should make it far, as that blonde twink is kind of controlling this whole war. I also think Tebeppa has the composition of a good leader, as she seems to be quite careful and data-driven, making smart decisions and not acting rashly. However, I do kind of think this could be her downfall. Being too careful or sticking too close to the data feels like a recipe for some metaphorical message about how relying on machines more than humans is a bad thing. Something that comes to mind with this is a quote from Jeff Bezos, who I don't like, but I think this quote is relevant. He once said that when data and anecdotal evidence don't match up, it's likely the data that is incorrect, or the data is not being applied in the correct way. I think this idea could be relevant to Tebeppa, and she could be put in a position where she has to choose between trusting her gut or trusting her data, and trusting her data might lead her astray. Another prince that I think could make it far and potentially win is Mariam. He's got great guards in Bisky and Hanzo, and I think a lot of people won't see him as a threat because he's so young. It's been stated multiple times that a lot of the older princes are more concerned with each other than they are with the younger princes. So I don't think it would be crazy for Mariam to make it far just because everyone else ignores him. Plus, his Nen Beast seems to be really threatening even if we don't know exactly what it does. Honestly, I think the main thing that could get in the way of him is either Virgil or his own mom, as both seem to be quite irrational, and the queen specifically has a good amount of power. We'll see though, it's hard to say at this point all things considered because he's just played such a minor role in this story. And of course, we have to talk about Wobble. Wobble will, without any doubt, make it far into the war, as she is connected to the main protagonist in Kurapika. But if I'm being honest, I'm not sure she'll win. It's hard to say though, obviously the plot would call for Wobble to win, but I feel like it's never so simple with Togashi, you know? How often do his stories go exactly as they appear that they're gonna go? The answer is pretty much never. So based on that, I feel like it's not likely that this baby will win. I don't know exactly what will happen. Perhaps Kurapika will get pulled away for some reason, either something with the Zodiacs or the troop or Hisoka or another prince, and then something happens to Wobble while he's gone. Or maybe something with Silent Majority or Yushohi will take the baby out from right under his nose. These are just a few different scenarios, but I feel like there are so many different ways that Wobble could die even under Kurapika's careful watch. The big question for this baby is of course her Nen Beast, which still has not made a single appearance since the war started, and that alone can completely change everything about her placement in the war. If you've been keeping track, then you would know there's just one prince left to talk about, and that is the one that I think is the most likely to win, Zhongli. At least as of chapter 410, which is the most current chapter as of recording. Not only does the third prince have an alliance with Kurapika and Tebeppa, but he also seems to be one of the most neutral and most okay princes in the running. As Kurapika stated, he is phenomenal at subtle diplomacy, which is a great quality for a ruler of a nation, especially one like Kakin. Now, obviously having some qualities of a good leader doesn't make you a good leader, nor does it mean he'll be the winner. But at this point in time, I think he is the prince that is the best set up for success. Really, I would say his only drawback is his lack of knowledge on Nen, but that is something that can be fixed if he wants it to be. He's well guarded, has a good amount of resources, and seems to be overall level-headed. He's the perfect combination of being set up to succeed and not being clinically insane like so many of the other higher princes are. And for that reason, I feel like he is the most likely to win. Now I swear, if he dies in like chapter 411, I'm gonna be so pissed. I'm sure there are plenty of you watching that don't agree with my predictions, and if that's the case, I would love to see them in the comments down below. I'm always open to discussion. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Please be sure to subscribe, it would really mean a lot to me, and I'll see you again soon for our next video. Bye!